Hello, a very good morning to you and welcome to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis show, and on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. Well, there is wailing over the cedi's falling or its value falling and economic problems. But there is also the outcry over the 678 plus men and women advising, watching, cooking, swimming, or is it, and doing all sorts of work at the Flagstaff House for the president. A true case of waste or simply uninformed uproar? That's the question. And what is this elementary political tactic adopted by Jerry Rawlings and others to stampede or stay the hand of the president to reshuffle the team, his team of ministers? Is the NPP set to crack with the disqualification of 5 of its men interested in national executive positions? The Paul Afoko case and the charge of deepening of the Akan party tag. Where exactly is that coming from? The GBA, that's the Ghana Bar Association, no more interested in disciplinary sanctions against errant lawyers? It's a question. I'm talking about respected, very senior Chachuchi Kata, who knows judges who are mixing the law with politics, and J.B. Dankwa's grandson, Gabi Ocheredako, who is ready to go to jail over his conviction that the Supreme Court corrupted the Constitution with a farcical judgment in the historic election petition. Stay right there. We'll be right back and do a thorough, detailed analysis of the issues. Pages of the newspapers and, of course, on the front pages of your minds in the course of the week. You're talking about the outcry over the 678 plus names, men and women, who are doing all sorts of jobs at the presidency. List was submitted to the presidency, and it has, attracted the brouhaha about all that, especially in the midst of the cedi's depreciation and also the economic problems. Well, the Minister for Media Relations, Information and Media Relations, Mahama Yerga, also has tagged claims of impending reshuffle as elementary political tactic intended to stay the hand of the president in any such processes or otherwise. We'll look at all of those matters as well. And you may be aware that there appears to be some little trouble within the NPP over the disqualification of 4 of its men who are interested in national executive positions and suspension of one, Mr. Paul Afoko. Well, Paul Afoko has his supporters and they say, don't touch the man. If you do, trouble. Well, we'll look at all of those matters, and you know that now there is a resurrection of the charge of the party being biased towards Akans, so to speak. Where is that coming from? That's the question I'm asking. Well, and then we'll look at the Ghana Bar Associations. We're told it has expressed non-interest in disciplinary action against Chachuchi Kata and Gabi Ocheredako over their unsavory pronouncements on the election petition. The Ghana Bar Association itself was the one that petitioned the General Legal Council. And we're told now they have revoked that particular petition. What exactly is happening? Thank you very much for keeping your dials here on Joy 99.7 FM. And you're watching us on your multi-TV. This is your Joy News channel. And we are listened to, or we can be heard across the country, myjoyonline.com, over a dozen affiliate stations, radio stations, and also at www.multitvworld.com/streams. The show is brought to you by the kindest sponsorship of Errata Motors. That is the best vehicles at the best prices. Star Assurance, that is your CIMG Insurance Company of the Year. They are your solid partner. And of course, my outfits, as always, is provided for by Latida. They make sure you look sharp. Thank you very much. My guests are seated. Some of them are seated, and I'm going to introduce them to you right away. Seth Kwame Acheampong. Well, we had a little thing about the Chum. And he was saying a few things about that. So Seth Kwame Acheampong, he's MP from Praeso. He is a member of the Defense and Gender and Children Committees of the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Thank you very much for joining us. This is your very first time on Newsfile, is it?
Exactly so.
Great to have you on the show. He is here, of course, representing the New Patriotic Party because we have issues specifically about the MPP to discuss. Abdul Rashid Pelpo, he needs no introduction, but of course he's also the MP for Wa Central. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Right. Abdul Malik Kweku Bako Jr., he's ready. He's in the house. He will join us right away. And then there's a very final person. I will introduce that person to you in due course. Thank you very much indeed. And your text messages are welcome. 1422, that's the text line. 1422. You can post your comments also on our Facebook wall, and we'll share them with the rest of the world. Now, gentlemen, we'll go straight away to the very first issue that we have to discuss, and that has to do with the list of staffers at the presidency that was submitted to the August House of Parliament in the course of the week, and the list contains 678 persons, and that certainly, we understand, excludes some recent appointments that's been made by the president at the presidency. We want to find out why all the brouhaha. There's been a comparison with the numbers in Kufuor's era, certain times of Kufuor's era. This number actually is a bit more than what President Mills left. And at a certain point in Kufuor's administration, in the 2005 period, the number of his staffers was also more than this particular one, but at a certain point in time, you'll find that the numbers also diminished or went down a bit. Now, the discussion, of course, is predicated on the current economic situation that the country is facing. Is it justifiable, and is that the way to go? Does our presidency or the president need more than this number, or need this number actually to be effective? Abdul Malik Kweku Bako Jr., good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, my brother.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Sorry, I'm slightly late.
Oh, don't worry. Thank you. Now, I'll start with Mr. Acheampong. Mr. Acheampong, you, before we actually started the show, you were asking the question, this list has come to your attention in Parliament. You have not even had the benefit of discussing it yet. You have the whole nation, beginning a discussion of this particular list. When you look at the list, why should Ghanaians be worried about it?
Thank you very much, Samson. And good morning to your cherished viewers. I think first and foremost, Ghanaians need to worry about this list. Reasons are that all the emoluments that people who serve in that institution, that's the office of the president, is a charge on the public purse.
Right.
And it is in the interest of the public that every charge which is on them, they need to know about it. It's like employing people and you really do not know what they are doing to give the necessary input per your vision in establishing whatever enterprise that you had put forward. If you look at this report, which was laid in Parliament just last week, Friday, not this week, last week, Friday,
right,
the 7th.
Right.
And it was referred to the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee. That was the referral. It is in the bosom of the committee now, so committee is not going to deliberate over it. But it has become a public interest subject prior to Parliament sitting over it. We've been discussing this subject over the years, and to me, it is high time we took bold decisions in respect of these subjects. Where am I coming from? Like you rightly said, often than not, it's become a conversation of numbers, that who had the highest numbers, who had the smaller number. And I think that we are not helping the discourse. That is my thinking. Reasons why we are not helping the discourse is that we need to ask ourselves certain empirical questions. Do we really need that size to operate in an economy like ours in Ghana? Saying so because value for money is of essence when it comes to the public purse.
Right.
Now, if we look at the office of the president, looking from the legal angle, we have a fusion in our constitution where we are running the executive presidency characteristic to that of the United States of America. And then we run a legislature which is similar to the Westminster in the UK. And so if you look at how these various organs are structured, and then you come to look at ours, at least we should have a referral and then make good analysis to be able to inform us as to whether we are making it well, we're making progress, or we are not making progress. I think in the US, we have 4 major advisors to the president in the office of the president. One is on national security, one is on technology, one is on domestic policy, and then one is on foreign policy. So you have 4 major advisors. And therein, it necessarily do not mean there are only 4 people. They occupy various organs within the office.
Right.
Now, if you look at the size of our economy, and then you look at our staffers, the report which I have before me, at least we have 5 major ministers who are in the presidency as ministers of state.
Right.
And then you come with the structure of the president's staff, headed by the chief of staff, and then under him you have the various advisors to the presidency. Now, if you may permit me, if you go into our constitution, my worry is that the president's office is the office of government machinery, and that presides over the entire government of our republic. Now, the president appoints ministers into the public and civil service who support his vision, his mission as a leader of the country in administering this land for us. And so worry comes to me when we have already clearly cut out organs of state, christened in ministries with their heads. We should advert our minds to the fact that the ministers are equally advisors to the president. And so they also form part of the entire office of government machinery.
Right. You see, would elevate the discussion to that aspect about the value of the numbers of these staffers at the presidency. Right. But we want to interrogate the issue as they stand, the issues as they stand now, and then subsequently we'll elevate it to that level subsequently. Now, you are the Minister of State in charge of private sector development. I think the discussion now is being looked at in the face of the economic situation. Do you think this is justified to look at it in that perspective?
Well, thank you very much, and good morning to our viewers. First of all, it's important to understand the dimension of responsibility at the presidency before we begin questioning the numbers. I'm sure that many people understand the presidency to mean inside the office of the president, you have 678 people working there. But that's not the case at all.
Right.
We have close to 20 other organizations, departments, which are under the presidency. Several of them, not all of them don't reside at the presidency. For example, the GIPC, the Diversity Implementation Committee, the
GIPC, Ghana Investment Promotion Center.
Yeah. The State Enterprises Commission, several of them, the National Population Count, all of them are under the presidency, and they all have their staff.
Right.
So you put all of them together, and you get that number. So to think that when you talk about the presidency, you are just talking about inside the presidency, is something that we have to clear our minds on. And so we have a statecraft to manage, and that statecraft is called the government. And it is the heartbeat of whatever is happening in this country. It has to be resourced properly. It has to be fuel. It has to be able to move fast and with efficiency. And if it demands that you have a certain quantity, a certain number of people, why not go for them? Because if you have a problem, any problem with that statecraft, the whole nation is heading for a problem. So I'm not too keen about the numbers. What I'm keen about for us to question is how much output is coming out of it. Because
your colleague MP says that we should be interested in the numbers because this is our money that is used to pay them.
I mean, that is very, it's true, but it's fundamental for every situation. That for every situation, whether it's one person, there are two people, there are three people, you should be concerned. But I'm saying the level of concern should not be about just mere numbers. The concern should be with how much are we paying them, how much output is coming out of how much we pay them. So you can be satisfied that you have value for money. And if people are not questioning that and are simply questioning numbers, then I don't know what exactly we are asking for. But essentially, it has a historical antecedent. And I have heard people, and I've read a number of publications talking about the fact that the numbers previously were larger. And It is true. Immediately before this government, there was a larger number of
692.
692, and even here some of them were not declared. And if they were to be declared, you will hit about 711. But that's not actually a big deal for me. People come into government with a manifesto, with a promise to do something. If President Kufuor wanted that number and he advertised himself and said, look, give me the mandate, I'll do ABCD for you, and you give him that mandate, he takes his staff and is able to deliver. Look at how much he has delivered. In any case, if we didn't employ them into the government machinery, they will still be somewhere else in the public service working. So it is something we should examine more closely so we can come to terms with what we are talking about. And I've heard a number of people talking about it on radio, and people are calling, trying to give it a political color. I don't think it's going to do well for us. What we should be looking for, and I'll encourage Ghanaians to be doing so, is to be examining the departments under the presidency and ask what output each of the departments their relevance, to the presidency and to the people of Ghana. And I believe that what President Mahama has done is to bring down this number to this figure, and knowing that that is what he would need to achieve our objective of giving us a better Ghana within the space of time he's going to, have his tenure of office.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll come to you again, and I'm going to Abdul Malik Kubako Jr. I want to read out this portion of the law, and I am referring to the Presidential Office Act. The Presidential Office Act 1993, Section 11 of that Act reads, annual report. It says the President shall, within 3 months after the end of each financial year, submit to Parliament an annual report containing the following information. A, the number of presidential staff employed at the office. B, the rank or grade of such staff. And C, employees in the other public services assigned to the office. Abdul Malik, This is traditional. It is expected to be done as required by law by every president within 3 months after the end of each financial year. Certainly a good thing to do to give the people the benefits of what exactly goes on within the presidency, right?
Yeah, why not? Transparency must come with democracy, and that's what we've always insisted on. So that was a very good law. And you showed the categorization. To be honest with you, I think I have to be brutally frank. I think the controversy out there is needless and uninformed. And there's an element of dishonesty and hypocrisy driving the debate across the political divide. See, what is it that we are talking about here? The Act says, and you quoted Section 11, it says, the President shall within 3 months after the end of each financial year submit to Parliament an annual report containing the following information. A, the number of presidential staff employed at the office. B, the rank or grade of such staff. And C, employees in the public services assigned to the office.
Right.
Now, let's draw the fine lines of the extension. Very important. Because all these global figures of 700, 800, 600, and that has become the basis for some debate that rakes emotive tendencies, no, is based on that global figure.
Right.
But the law must inform us. They are in different categories. Look, the number of presidential staff employed at the office is distinct from the employees in the public service assigned or attached to the president's office. Indeed, those public servants, the employees, continue to draw their salaries from their respective workplaces.
Yeah. And they outlive the presidency.
Many times. There are times, and these things, they are brought there not by the presidency,
right.
The Public Services Commission and the head of civil service. And so sometimes if they change because their heads have decided to do the changes for whatever reasons. So let's look at first the political category. The presidential staffers appointed by the president. And indeed, when we are going to have a debate on that as to how many they are or where, I would want that we bring them even within the broader debate about the size of government relative to ministers, deputy ministers, regional ministers, which is a debate we've been having all the time. Because they come within that category where it is within the president's jurisdiction to appoint, and if you like, disappoint, quote unquote. Now, this third category of employees, the second category of employees in the public services, either assigned or attached, when you go for the records, which is usually in the annual report,
right,
and also submitted to the Committee of Parliament, the Legislative or the Committee on Legislation and Order, you see the breakdown. And when you see the breakdown, you would realize that they all don't stay at that one particular location known as the presidency or the office of the president. The guest houses, Nakosumbos, the Australia House, the Peduasi Lodge are all part of it. The State House, the Independence Square, the Parks and Gardens, you know. So then you begin to ask yourself, why do we float out there? Perhaps the problem is arising from the long title. I don't know, you are a lawyer, educate me. Because the Act itself says, what does the Act say? It says, Annual report to Parliament on presidential office staff.
Right, presidential office staff.
Okay, so yes, there is that problematic description or definition up there. But fortunately, the annual report gives you a breakdown. And the breakdown too comes with the stations of those employees. If we did the argument on this informed, factual basis, a lot of the emotions will go down. Because see, if you are going to talk of the money that comes with it, the expenditure, then you might as well start the debate on the basis of the overall numbers of the public service, that is the labor that we have in the public. They say we have about 600,000 public and civil servants. Is that not so? I don't know. I haven't done my homework there, but I hear this figure floated around quite often. Then look at it, that the size, maybe we have a huge size, big, a large number of people working in the public sector. Because you cannot isolate. For instance, what they say 400 here, this is the 2001 report, annual report, which was submitted to Parliament and was dealt with 14th November 2003. This is Hansard, 14 November 2003. There are two reports that were submitted the same day and dealt with the same day, the 2001 and 2002. And significant things, if you take your time and read this thing carefully, you see that it's a household staff, 485. Other public servants on attachment, 94. Public servants assigned to the office, 124. These numbers put together, none of them is politically appointed.
Okay.
None. So the question to ask, if you think it's too big, I think we should interrogate the issue with the heads of civil service and public services commission. They may have a rationale, a criterion for why these people are assigned to those places. Okay? We could take our time. So this point about, John Kufuor was 718, John Mahama was 600, and you see, it's even insignificant in terms of the reduction. It's insignificant. So if you are going to, ejaculate prematurely over numbers of that nature, it makes no sense, and it doesn't give us the basis to interrogate the issues thoroughly. So we might never find a solution, if indeed there is the need to find a solution. You see, my brother, let me tell you something. When you go into this Hansard, and this is why sometimes this issue, for instance, perhaps we should have contacted the members of the committee over the years. There have been annual reports, I believe, since 94, because the act was enacted in 93. If some were not done, it's possible. It's possible that we had gaps. But the committee, because I'm saying this because if you read this committee's report, let me read what the committee chairman then was, K. Osei Prempeh. He was the NPP. He subsequently became, I think, Deputy Attorney General.
Right.
The committee expressed the view that the number of staff at the president's office is quite high. This is the committee's view. The committee noted cases of duplication of roles, as in, for example, cleaners and sanitary labors under the household staff. This together make up about 148 of the household staff. The committee recommended that steps should be taken to streamline the roles of various officers and prune down the number of staff at the president's office in order to make it more efficient. You get the drift? So here they are looking at possible reductions in terms of the household staff, 148.
Right.
But you can only do that if indeed you take the map of the office. We are not looking at just the castle then, or we are not looking at just Flagstaff House now. You are looking at Peduasi Lodge in addition to all those places. You are looking at Independence Square and all those places together, and then find out whether indeed this number, for all you know, is bloated.
Right.
But you needed, Parliament has discussed this over and over again. Indeed, the current president, here, his contribution, he was insisting on reduction. But listen to what he said, and you see where his drift was. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the breakdown of the list, it says presidential staffers, three. Political appointees. Other presidential appointees, 12. Put it together, 15.
Right.
Public servants assigned to the office, 124. Other public servants on attachment, 94. Mr. Speaker, I find it very hard to understand this categorization. Public servants assigned to the office, 124. Other public servants on attachment, 94. Mr. Speaker, you can understand a certain small percentage of public servants on attachment, maybe 10% or 20% for special reasons. But to have probably more than half of the total number of permanent staff at the castle assigned on attachment creates a very serious difficulty. I think that we must look at the issue with all good faith. I think it's in the national interest that the expenditure is cut as much as possible. one of the main problems confronting our budget is the shortage of revenue. And I think that if these huge numbers were pruned down at both the presidency and the ministries, it will save some money that will be made available to improve the salaries of other essential organizations like Parliament and others like medical doctors, nurses, policemen, and so forth. He was opposed by others, but his line was going in consonance with the committee's thing. But you see, this generally, for me, looks... let me choose my words carefully because he's now the president, but it was a bit uninformed. You see, the committee itself and then MP Mahama, as well as others here, on what basis were they asking for this? Where are the records which could have informed today's debate? Okay. Go check subsequent Hansards. The same cycle of debate. Call it recycled.
Right. Okay. Just hold on briefly for me. You are a member of Parliament, and Kwaku is bringing to you the history, the precedents, that this has been a cycle. And you are here today. You're making the same debate, which he thinks is a bit uninformed. At least that you do not provide us the statistics in respect of how the law requires the separation of the staffers. Because if you look at it, he just referred to you in one situation where when you take the people actually within the presidency, they are 12. If you take those from other public services...
That is the 12 is in respect of the categorization Kwaku gave.
Right.
Other political appointees.
Yes,
right.
He gave two categorizations.
Right.
The established...
It's not his categorization.
Oh, no, per his
it's
submission.
the law's categorization.
No, I agree with you.
Right.
Per his submission. I mean, if I listened attentively to him, in his narration, he tried to give a background as to who is employed through the Public Services Commission,
right,
and who is employed through the Office of Head of Civil Service, which I agree perfectly because that is already a structured system. My take coming on board here is that, like he said, and if you listen to me in my initial commentary, I'm coming from a different attitude. Reasons are that we've been doing the numbers conversation over the years, and it's a give and take, which I believe on this platform we have veered off as we speak. I was talking numbers, just opposing it to the size of our economy. Now, I just want to come to your question. My take is this. Truly and indeed, the people who are categorized as political appointees are advisors, and the office they hold equally would have support staff. It goes to add to the numbers we say we don't want to add. Now, going forward, I think it is high time that we as a people find an ideal, what I may call an organizational chart. We just looked at what the Public Services Commission do. We just looked at what the Office of Head of Civil Service do. Nobody, no chief director sits in any ministry and can decide to hire any person. You have to route it through the Office of Head of Civil Service. It is regulated, regimented. I believe it is high time, since the emoluments comes back to the public purse. And lately, the public is not forgiving us in public office at all. Especially in the past week, we've been bashed in the media properly. Yesterday, colleagues of mine were making allusions to it when the business statement was being laid in the House. And so all of us are awakened. Now, if we could put up an ideal org chart, an organizational chart, then we can restrict ourselves, one, to the size of the people, and at the same time, save the people who are bashing us some money in their purse, because...
Okay. Just hold on briefly. Now, Mr. Rashid Prepo, you have heard the argument, for example, put up by the President, then Member of Parliament. You having a Leader of the House. How should you now approach this debate such that it doesn't become part of the cycle that Kwaku is referring to? Because the history shows that it's always been a question of a matter of a talk shop. It comes to Parliament, the opposition will criticize, the number is it's too large, you need to cut it down, and you don't get it cut in the end. This same president made the argument at the time.
Well, he was only looking at the ratios and percentages and mixes And he was talking about the fact that you have a small percentage that is political appointees, and you have a huge number of public service coming to work at the presidency or working for the presidency from where they are. And he was questioning it. But it doesn't mean he was questioning the essence and the roots of the law. You know, and I was saying it, I was only short of saying that the arguments were misinformed. When I said you look at the dimension of what a presidency is, and that there are several public servants who are working under the presidency. You have 20 organizations working under the presidency. The law gives the presidency a certain leverage, you know, in bringing in whoever he thinks will help.
For example, the education that it is not all of them who draw their salary on
No,
the
they don't even
budgets.
draw their salary from the presidency. They draw their salary. In fact, let me say that their budget is with the chief of staff, but they have their separate budgets. You know, they have their separate budgets. They run their accounts from their own offices. But the chief of staff, I represented the chief of staff in the last budget to present the budget.
Sorry, whilst he's talking, I want you to go through the list and tell me from the way you are looking at it, what can be done away with, for example, at the level of those who are coming from the other leg, the public services, you know, those of them, how many of them, which categories of them do you think can be done away with? Koku gave the example of the reference to cleaners and sanitary, whatever. I don't get the difference really.
Laborers, yeah, they thought they said duplication.
Cleaners and sanitary laborers.
Yeah, so you have all these people coming under the presidency because, for example, when the president came into office, he thought that, look, the private sector is so key to him. So he brought the PSDS 2, Private Sector Development Strategy 2, under his presidency, and he appointed a minister for the private sector from his presidency. Now, it doesn't mean he is, indeed, it's going to give a certain size to the number of workers in the presidency. But it doesn't mean he's employing them. There are new people he's employing, and then, you know, increasing the number of workers at the presidency. He's only drafting them in, you know, as a way of carrying out a policy direction. He has decided to.
Like I said, we will talk about the relevance and the efficiency of all of these staffers to the general, you know, economy of the country. And it is interesting that you make reference to the PSDS 2.
Yeah.
Because there are serious problems. There are people who are at the helm of this policy who feel that a lot of things are not going on right. There's, for example, money, I understand, in excess of $600 million that is sitting there, and yet nothing is being done to access it to help develop.
Sitting where?
As you are
sitting where?
In the with the development
voted
partners.
by who?
With the development partners.
That is completely a lie.
We will have a separate debate on that.
No,
because
but
I think it's a very
once you
serious
mention
matter.
it, if we leave it, the public will be misinformed. There's nothing there's no amount called $600 million sitting somewhere that is not being accessed. That is completely true.
Are you certain that the development partners are exactly happy about the manner in which you are prosecuting that particular agenda?
That's a different question you are asking now. It should be the Ghanaian who should either be happy or not happy, because it is us who are driving the private sector. It is us who have drafted the Private Sector Development Strategy 2. It's in the manifesto of the NDC, and we are saying we want to drive it. So if we are not driving it the way we want, the citizens should express dissatisfaction. If we wait for development partners to express dissatisfaction, it means that we don't know exactly what we are all about.
How effectively is the presidency working with those who are out of the presidency, who are supposed to be making sure that this agenda is prosecuted properly?
There is some laxity in the way we are driving the process. But indeed, it's going on well. Last year, at the beginning of last year, we did a scoping of one of the flagship programs. We have ended the scoping. We've gotten to a point where we now have to sign an MOU with the development partners this year, and then we take off, you know. But the process is very cumbersome, and that's what you should understand. I mean, if the process is not that smooth, then it means that things are going to delay.
All right.
And I can tell you that the concern is being expressed also by the president. And he says that, look, we need to speed up things this year and get things happening. But I can say also with authority that Danida has promised $6 million. It's been sitting in their accounts. They say they will give it as soon as the process starts, we can use it. The DFID
so maybe I meant to say $6 million
yes,
when I said 600.
Yes.
$6 million.
The DFID has promised $30 million.
How long has that money been promised and you not accessing it?
That's what I'm telling you. Until you can get all the processes right and say that we have about 5 flagship programs, and we have to do due diligence. We have to make sure we get the flagships right before we begin to implement them.
All right.
Now, and so far, we've not been able to get it right. So you can't put money in something that is not done properly because you waste the money.
Okay.
And that's why we are taking time.
Right. Now, Koku.
Yeah, you see, the point to illustrate, and that's why I thought that the committee of the relevant committee ought to have done some work with this, if indeed there's even any basis for reduction. And then people like us who come to do discussion will be proceeding on a firm basis.
Right.
For instance, if you look at this 1998 report, the Rollins Time, sanitary labors, I'm raising the point about the duplication. Sanitary labors, they said there were 42 in Noma at the castle, Peduasi Lodge, and official guest houses. We are not told the number of the guest houses, but there are quite a lot in this country. Then cleaners, there were 132. And at the State House, Castle, Peduasi Lodge, and other government guest houses. There's an overlapping here. Total number is 174. The committee could have, and I think to have a comparative thing, let's go to the Kufuor era in terms of the same categories.
Right.
Sanitary labors, there were 33 in Noma at the castle, Peduasi Lodge, and official guest houses. Cleaners, there were 115 at the State House.
There's a reduction in both as compared to the Rollins regime.
Then it's 148 in total. The question to ask is if we don't know the locations.
The other guest houses,
which could be
spread across the country.
They are spread across the country. They have different sizes in terms of even the volume of work to be done at each place. And that is why it is those who second them, who take them there. And these people already work with their original work outfits. So when we are going to make a debate about expenditure, we have to be careful. Are we suggesting they can be withdrawn from the presidency? Quote unquote.
Right.
But they will continue to work in their original workplaces and continue to draw salaries, which is a charge on the consolidated fund. So where is the argument?
See, okay. Now again, listening more of the education that Koku seeks to bring on this discussion.
Unless we want to retrench them.
Right. And then looking at previously what you have been trying to do, going through the list, and I was asking, are you able to say that this is the number in this category, for example, sanitary laborers, that ought to be cut down? And how are you going to be able to say that? For example, if you can't locate the number of other guest houses across the country where they work in, and you can't tell the exact number of persons who are working in those places as sanitary laborers or cleaners. He gives the example of 1998, and you have sanitary laborers 42. In Kufuor's time, he gives the example there were 33.
2001.
Yes, 2001, there were 33. The cleaners in 1998 were 132. In 2001, that number reduced to 115.
Thank you very much, Samson. Listening to Kweku attentively, you realize that it is high time we really, just looking at what we have, there is an inherent challenge that for me we have not looked at as a people. The inherent challenge is that we should look at where we have inherited this structure of government from. It is not only the office of president. Now, the structure of our government.
Okay, forgive me. Let me do this and come back quickly.
I'll wait for you.
We are privileged to have on the line Kojo Mpiani, who is Chief of Staff, who was Chief of Staff under the Kufuor administration. Good morning and thank you very much for joining us on Newsfile, sir.
We can't hear.
Good morning. Good morning.
Right.
Thank
right.
you for
right.
having me on your program.
Great. You are on record to have said earlier that some of the numbers are not necessary. How do you propose we practically go about reducing the numbers? And please show us if you know exactly what the numbers are in respect of where they are posted to work.
I believe we are looking at the whole thing wrongly. I think we should listen to what Acquah said and take it from there. The question of numbers in the presidency, so far as I'm concerned, does not matter. Because they are not appointed by the president.
Okay.
No president appoints
Mr. Pieni,
these public servants.
Mr. Pieni, sorry. Hello, Mr. Pieni.
Yes.
Sorry, help us a bit. Reduce the volume of the radio or the television by you, or you can just put it off, and then we can hear you clearly. There's an echo.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Please go on.
Yes, what I'm saying is that a president goes into office, and there are about 600 public servants there. The president has no power to sack any of them. He will work with them. So as Mr. Acquah said, you may wish to transfer the 500 and keep 100 in the office of the president. But the 500 will be distributed among other government departments. So you have not achieved anything. The president appointees are only the political ones. So if you want to take the president on, then you take him on the political appointees he makes. You know, the number of people working in the office, I believe, is just a symptom of the problem we have in the whole public service or the civil service or public service. I, for example, was there, and I believe we have too many people in the public service. So as a country, we should look at it holistically and say, how many people do we think we need in the civil service? Look at what is happening. We are told, for example, that we spend about 70% of our revenue on payment of salaries and wages in the civil service. Those who receive these salaries and wages are telling us that they are not well paid, and indeed they are not well paid. So there's a problem there. Is it not possible for us to look at it realistically and look at it and say that maybe if we have 600,000 as we're being told, maybe half of this number can do the work and do the work well, so that we pay this half very well and have the other half off. When we pay them well, we may still have some revenue or some money to do some developmental work. This is the way I believe we should approach it. But this question of equalization and say President Kufuor time this number was there or that, President Kufuor never appointed them. President Kufuor just appointed his secretary, his chief of staff, and a few number of people who were what we would term as political appointees. I believe as a country, let's look at the whole question of the number of people in the public service. And if we're able to do this, I think it will go a long way in helping us. I was there, and I know you may have about 5, 6 people doing a work which conveniently can be done by 1 or 2 people. So that is, I believe, the way we should look at. Otherwise, every year we come up with number of people in presidential office, we debate it, we throw it away, and the problem will be reversed so far as that law is there. Because the law just says that give us the number, break it down. So you break it down. If you want to take the president on or any other president on, you can only take him on the number of his own appointees. Otherwise, it becomes, excuse me today, a useless sort of debate.
Okay.
Which will not benefit anybody.
Can you recap for me, if I didn't hear you clearly, can you recap for me what, in your opinion, is the practical way of reducing the numbers as you desire?
You know, we want to do it. I remember when we came to come, the World Bank together with government were doing some work in trying to determine the number of people the civil service or the public service will need. And it went on for, initially it was under the office of the Chief of Staff. It was moved to the office of the Senior Minister and then to the office of the Public Service Minister. You know, I can't just sit here and say, oh, maybe we need 100,000. And they were doing a work to determine the number, the number which will be able to provide efficient support to the government. I don't know what happened to it now. I'm not sure. And, you know, it's always a social problem also because you have 600,000. Maybe at the end of it, you realize that half of this should leave the civil service.
So number one, you want us to first look for that particular report or that assessment and take it on from there. Is that so?
I believe we should do that.
Right.
I believe we should do that.
Right. And now you have come under some criticism for your first reaction to the release of this list, in which you suggested that the numbers were too many and it was the numbers were was too large and that it was waste and it was unnecessary. When you were saying that, had you forgotten about what had happened previously under your own administration?
You see, I think I was misquoted. I said the number was large, as I'm saying it now. And I was not referring it to the government. And I think I was very clear in what I said that it's not the president who appoints these people. The president goes into office and these people are there. And I agree with those who say the number is large. It's large. There's no doubt about that. Because you have cleaners, maybe about 100 cleaners and whatnot. So you ask yourself, you go to any of these and you have about 10 cleaners to your place. So you ask yourself, can you have 2 cleaners doing this work? Pay them well and you do the work. So yes, I said the number was large, but I was not saying that the number is large because of President Mahama. No. But people, in Ghana, everything sort of polarized into partisanship. And so because I said that, and it's coming under President Mahama, so he's saying that because what happened when he was in office. But that's not what I was saying. I said the number was large, but it's a symptom. It's a symptom of a problem in the country. It's symptom of the problem of the large number of people in the civil service.
Right.
So we should look at it that way.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed for your time, Mr. Kojo-Mpiani.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much indeed. And I was hoping that what he had to say would also help you to better, sort of appreciate the situation in the analysis that you were about to do. Because he has had the benefit of being the chief of staff, the man who supervised this particular, if you like, somehow, this particular section of the presidency.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to buttress what he said because I was just going to go in that direction. Reasons are that I was talking about an inherent challenge that as a country and as a people we have all shied away from. I think there was a bold initiative which was really, if I may be allowed to use the language, heavy propaganda was used, the Apollo 568. Okay, that is history. Come to Ghana today. We are in Ghana today. And fortunately, just last week, another appointee of President Kufuor I watched on a different network who served in a particular ministry and was categorical. He was pushed by the anchorman just like you and he said that if we're going to be honest and if I'm being charitable, to borrow the good language of my senior brother Kuku, if I'm being charitable, in the ministry he served in, he can say that the work they did there, they could have done with only 40% of the employees they had in there. That gives us the challenge. The rest, where do we take them to? That is the crux of the matter. That is where we as a people and as policymakers and as leaders need to focus our energies and help chart a new course. A very, very good mantra we use in this country, thinking out of the box. That is the heavy box we all have to go and focus on and help. Because like you said, even if you do away with that, we have, if you are being careful and doing proper job evaluation, you realize that there are some duplicity. If you look at the people, and then if you look at the definitions, you realize that that's as if we're just giving job to people to just come and hang out. I mean, we all say it. You walk into our MDAs, and sometimes you find the people occupying the space there, about half of them not attending to anything. I, until I got into Parliament, was plying my trade in the private sector. And there is a different culture in this country in what pertains and exists in the private sector vis-a-vis to the public sector.
What viewers and listeners will be more interested in will be what you will personally do in Parliament in respect of this report, as far as the bigger picture of the list of presidential staff is concerned. You're talking about thinking outside the box. It appears we continue to sit in the box and try to think outside of the box. And sometimes, indeed, if we actually thought within the box, the problems will not be there.
No. We can easily go by that way. But like you rightly put it back here, first and foremost, I'm going to be bold to say that we have to cut down on employees. Why? Because you look at the deficit which is facing the country today. I mean, we need to face reality. We are flooded. We are engulfed with debt.
Are you going to look for the World Bank report that he's talking about, that project, to inform your position? Are you going to look for the exact numbers? Otherwise, you get up on the floor
it will not even be
and you make a statement which will be shut down.
I believe so much in that statement Mr. Impending made. And I'll further on say that I believe the single span salary structure is even premised and informed by that action, because we need to do content analysis of job evaluation of what we do and the services we render in our public service. And if we don't do that, this is a bitter pill. And my uncle always tells me that the truth is bitter, but it needs to be said.
Right.
All of us must shy away from that problem, and we need to say it.
Okay. Thank you very much. This is Newsfile, and it's brought to you by the kind sponsorship of Erata Motors. If you're looking for a brand new vehicle or slightly used one, and I'm talking about the one you are assured will give you the comfort that you deserve and the durability that should come with a good vehicle, go to Erata Motors. Just call them 0244 445 268 or 0277 486 800. Erata Motors is located at Lagos Avenue opposite Body Talk near the GT Bank, East Legon. Just call them, as I said, and you'll get the best of vehicles out of them. Now, I'm coming to you, but I want Kweku to bring in, he's had his hand up for a while. I wanted, when I return from it, I want you to look at it from this perspective. The question of the relevance has come up. The relevance of the numbers of these staffers, even including people like yourself in the presidency, has been questioned. You know, the man in charge of private sector development. Some say, why? Can't the trade ministry take care of this particular, business? What is going on? Your colleague MP just said, when you look at some of the places, 40% of the people there can actually do the work that is being done by the current, numbers that are there. So we'll come and look at it that way and see how that informs the discussion going forward. But quickly, what's it?
Yes, you see, that why I think maybe to some extent, and I'm being cautious here, that Parliament, or if you like, that the relevant committee, has not helped matters so that we keep recycling the debate. For instance, in the debate on the 2001 report, our own good friend Alhaji M.A. Yakubu, then MP for Yendi, you listen based on what others had said and the call for investigations into the numbers and the categories. This is what he said. He said, perhaps the House can give a definitive recommendation requiring that the question of the staff of the office of the President should be investigated. It could well be that some staff were assigned by certain departments or certain ministries, even at their present jobs, or some other way would be found so that the presidency does not seem to look like having too many employees. Because if you look at the categories, at some of the categories, you would find that they are public servants assigned to the office of the President. If you take the Accountant General, for instance, you normally have Accountant General staff in various organizations all over the place. They could still be regarded as staff of the Accountant General's department. Therefore, it should not be looked at as if now we are having some wondrous figures, over 700 for the office of the President, as if something funny is happening there. I think that we ought to have a very, very definite position so that in future we will not be worrying about these numbers as if they are numbers coming from one office. With this, Mr. Speaker, I will support that we accept the committee's report and even go further to make the recommendation of the committee that to recommend the commission of there's a repetition here of the House that this staff situation of the office of the President should be looked at. This is 2003. We are in 2014. We have come back and recycled the debate. Right. Now, let me illustrate it here. For instance, if you look at the Rawlings 1998 report, the question of security guards, it says the number 33, mostly night watchmen at State House, Blaster Square, Peduase Lodge, and official guest house. You compare to 2001, the Kufuor one, it says security guard stroke watchmen. the number 28, mostly night watchmen at State House, Blaster Square, Peduasi Lodge, and official guest houses. Now, I don't know. These security guards and watchmen, clearly they are not the police.
Right.
So where are they employed? From which outfit? Are they the private security agents? Are they ordinary civilians who have been employed? Somebody will raise the issue that, fine, if you are taking this category away, then it must be the police,
right,
that are already on state payroll. The police may have argued some time ago that, wait, we didn't have the capacity, we don't have the numbers, all these things. If the committee, if that recommendation for investigation into the numbers and the categories had been done, I presume that by now would have even dealt with the issue properly. It would not be a subject matter for public debate.
Right.
But my brother, last one, I beg you, I'm sorry. I read in some of the newspapers, and that I consider distortions, about swimming pool attendants.
Right.
I think that's for propaganda capital. And the impression was created as if that was the first time. And there's nothing wrong with it. Peduasi Lodge, there's a swimming pool there. Because we allowed it to go into a state of disrepair, that swimming pool too was in a state of disrepair, but it's been restored. And foreign guests are sent there. They would want to relax their limbs and nerves using the water therapy, which the swimming pool provides. In 1998, we had swimming pool attendants. Castle, State House, and Peduasi Lodge, 6. So as far back as 1998, we had swimming pool attendants. My last point, which intrigues me, and I would need, is good that you are going to, Honorable. Ministers at the state, ministers of state at the presidency were captured as part of presidential staffers by the Mahama document, which is dated 28 January 2014. I have need education there. I was wondering, those ministers of state, did they go through vetting to become ministers of state?
They did.
They did.
Yeah.
I am not sure if they can be classified in the real sense of presidential staffers and come under Act 463.
What do you say to that?
I need education.
What do you say
I
to
am
that?
not throwing a challenge. I just need information and education.
It's intriguing, isn't it?
Well, I think that if you understand the concept of the
minister properly nominated and appointed and vetted by Parliament.
Yes.
And yet you are being put under a staff of the president.
Act 463.
Right.
If you understand the presidency and what it means by the staff of the presidency, you would realize that public servants who are not directly appointed by the president to work under him are brought in to the presidency. So anybody, including a minister, who the president thinks fits into his plan of work, can be brought in as a staff of the president.
He said you don't need to go through the processes.
The Act.
The processes that are constitutional, as in getting appointed and getting vetted by Parliament. Otherwise, you should just go through the presidential staff.
Well, that's something we have to have a look at, because if it's the Act does not allow or does not categorize the minister as a staff of the president, then
those who are appointed under the Act are not sent for vetting. That's
so.
the point I'm making.
Yes, but the ministers are appointed because
and
they are vetted,
yes,
and they are approved.
I thought you could have excluded them from the list of presidential staffers.
I mean, that is also true.
In line with the spirit of the Act.
Yeah, that is
even
true.
the letter of it.
That is also
so what
true.
do you think? It sounds like this is a mistake.
It's not a mistake. It's to be transparent about whoever is working at the presidency. The ministers of state must
would
be
have
taken.
Known that
the
because
ministers
you have
of
gone
state
through vetting, so would know that you work at the presidency. By your designation, Minister of State at the presidency, you went through Parliament. So there will be no lack of transparency. We would know that you are stationed at the presidency because you were publicly vetted.
Yeah,
that's the point I'm making. It's superfluous. Indeed, it doesn't help.
Actually, there's nothing wrong with it.
I'm not saying there's something wrong.
If there's nothing wrong with it, why do you question it? You know, if
law.
No, you are saying that you agree that it's superfluous, but there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, so I'm saying that once there's nothing wrong, yes,
it is not unconstitutional.
Yeah, so I think that it should take account of the quantum of workers under the presidency, and it's also to take the level of transparency to another level.
Right.
You know, to say that look, the Minister of State has secretaries, he has etc. under him. So they can't be hanging. You know, they all have to be taken care of.
Increase the numbers.
Back to the major
now.
question I put to you about relevance.
Yeah.
You would have heard.
But let me explain.
You'd have heard the critics of the government say, despite all these numbers, the economy is not being managed efficiently. I mean, the state, you said you have a statecraft to manage. The criticism is that things are not being managed effectively, efficiently, even in the light of these numbers. So the question comes, what's the relevance really?
Actually, when a government is in power, you judge the government at the end of a tenure. The government has a strategy, and the strategy manifests as it goes along. But the final judgment about what the government has done for the people can be judged and can be brought to bear at the end of the tenure.
We certainly get to the final judgment, but we have to do the assessment before that.
As we are going on, it is a debate. It's a question of whether what you are saying is the truth or what I'm saying is the truth. So it's very, very subjective for anybody to look at the present system of administration and say we are not doing well. We have been able to run this economy the way we run it in order to sustain and make it resilient, you know, despite all the fluxes and global challenges we are meeting, you know, the challenges we are meeting with our fundamentals, and et cetera, et cetera. We still have not gotten to a point where somebody will say there's inefficiency, you know. So I think that that's a very subjective analysis. But again, if you look at the ministers of state at the presidency, the president will definitely all the time need a minister of state or some ministers of state at the presidency. He can't be there every time to do all the things. So he would need people who would be free, who will free up themselves from the normal sector ministerial responsibilities to be assigned to duties that the president, in his wisdom, will think will advance the course of his administration. And sometimes representing him at places where he cannot find a minister, free up a minister to do so. So they are a necessity. But in my particular instance, the president found it necessary to assume the chairmanship of the private sector development, you know, just as, you know, President Kufuor did once upon a time and brought Battels and the private sector under his presidency. President Mahama thinks the same, you know, and he has taken it to another dimension by making himself, or by becoming the chairman of the private sector council, so that he can monitor the development of the private sector. And to add more seriousness to it, he assigns a minister to it. So you have private sector people locating the office of the president as a place where they can negotiate, they can discuss their problems, challenges, and for the president to have a closer look at the challenges and be able to attend to them, you know, in an expeditious manner. So I don't think that what the president has done, there's anything short of excellency. I mean, excellence in it. It's to directly monitor what he thinks is the heartbeat of the economy, and then deals with it in a manner that will solve the problem as they present themselves. So in effect, I know that I haven't seen any administration that hasn't got a minister of state at the presidency. You know,
there's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
Now, when you talk about minister of state at the presidency, do you know that the presidential staffers, there ought to be one who is the head? There ought to be one that is named as the head, according to the.
And that's the chief of staff.
The chief of staff.
So you are under him.
No. You see,
as a minister of state, you are under him.
The chief of staff represents the authority of the president.
No, it's a question I'm asking you of
but I'm
law.
answering it.
Read, for example, section 4, section 3, section 4 of the Office of the President Act. So if you say there's nothing wrong with putting you under the presidential, the presidential staffers,
excuse me,
that's what it means. You work under him.
Let me explain something to you. I'm saying that the chief of staff does not act on his own authority. Have you look at the Constitution? There's nothing called chief of staff there. He acts because the president asks him to represent his authority. So when he speaks for the president. He doesn't speak
don't answer to him.
They answer to the president.
Correct.
But he communicates the message of the president to the ministers.
When you are under the staff that he manages, you answer to him.
You answer to the president.
No, you answer to him.
For the minister.
That's what the chief of staff is part of the presidential staffers.
Right.
When they are signing the letters, Rawlings' letter, Kufuor, you watch. they've all listed the Chief of Staff, Secretary to President, and the Secretary to the Cabinet as part of those captured by the Act.
Yeah.
The Ministers of State at the Presidency.
Actually, I wanted us to move on. It's just that you brought in that bit again, and I wanted us to...
I think that is more administrative,
right?
If we are going to be fair to ourselves, because in terms of the administration, every minister who is appointed is a subordinate to the President.
Sure.
Yes.
Because the Constitution is clear that the executive authority of this state is vested in the President.
We're not talking about the President. We're talking about the Chief of Staff.
I'm just going there. And who is the closest of the staffs of the President? His subordinates. The Chief of Staff is a subordinate. The Minister is a subordinate. The closest is the Chief of Staff.
The Chief of Staff cannot, on his own, issue instructions to a minister. That's the point I'm making.
You can't.
And it's not just the Minister of State alone. All the ministers.
All the ministers.
If you want to have direct contact with the President, you go through. You meet it's through the Chief of Staff.
I get that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's not as if.
Okay. I'm going to take some text messages here.
It's something. It's perhaps what I'm going to put out is an uneducated proposition, but it's just for brainstorming. I was just taking a look, and this is a long shot. I may be wrong. The Presidential Transition Act 2012, Act 845, and when I go to Presidential Estates Unit. It says there is established by this Act a Presidential Estates Unit, the functions of which are A, to take and keep an inventory of the assets and properties of the government, which are assets and properties not vested in the Lands Commission established under Article 258 of the Constitution, to ensure that the assets and properties of the government are maintained in good condition and tenable repair, and to ensure, where relevant, the assets and properties of government are transferred in good condition, and so and so and so. This is a long shot. That's why I say maybe uneducated.
Conflict?
No.
Of rules or what?
Not exactly. If we were to proceed in a certain direction, and this thing is well established, don't you think that many of those people we call household staff and all the rest, because the properties, Preduasi Lodge and the rest are assets.
Yes, will come under them.
Will come under them, so that then you have an established organized labor unit, or the personnel under this unit. Presidents come and go with it being well established.
I've got some text messages here, and this one from Ganiu in Savligu says, clearly this government... Okay, Ganiu, your text has no direct correlation to the discussion we are having. Brian Boabinga, which says the Mahama Misata-led government has a staff strength of 678. How then do you expect them to be modest in expenditure? And you hear ministers glorifying such outright carelessness and mediocrity on the part of the NDC government. Okay, maybe you sent in this one before you had all the education.
I think it's important to stress that number you call 678.
I'm saying that he may have sent this text
but
before.
It's still important to communicate it to others who may have just started this.
Right. So they
are not people in the presidency.
Right. That's been made clear. Solomon Koforidia says, I think the debate on the numbers is unproductive because it is helping solve the unemployment problem. Oh, I don't get you. Or you wanted to say because it's not helping solve the unemployment problem.
No, maybe suggesting that those numbers, we cannot retrench those.
Okay, that's the point.
Yeah,
right.
Because they work in their normal places.
Thank you. Jesse Buako writes from Mamprobi that the economy is in shambles because of the 678 staff working at the president's office. What value have we gained from this when these same staff members are paid with the taxpayers' money? The Accra Suhum Road is in a deplorable state. NDC, you have failed Ghanaians. Avieka writes, what a debate. Number of staff at the presidency. This issue has been reduced to the usual wahala. That is, the previous government had more numbers. My main issue is, do we really need all those staff at the presidency? That should be rather the debate. Thank you. Stephen writes, I disagree with Mr. Kukubako on his attempt to justify the huge number of employees at the presidency. The truth is the huge number is worrisome and it puts huge stress on the public purse. Every attempt should be made to reverse this worrying trend. I'm not inviting a response from him because I suppose you would have heard him in the course of the program. Abraham says something. Ghanaians are now tired of you journalists in this country because you tag some people with all kinds of titles and bring them on your show and promote their brands to make political capital out of it for their own interests and not the Ghanaian interest. Please kindly go back to your records and play discussions of one Dr. Nimoy Thompson on the economy, then his solutions to the problems at the time. Is it not interesting to note that the same man is today advising the president on the economy? Very interesting there. Yes, I'm going for a break, but there's one small thing I think we can clear before we do that in a minute. Kweku, do you think that there is a security matter when this report is put out, including the names of the persons? The law does not say it should include the names. Is it actually a requirement? It says the number and then their rank. You need the names to do that.
Look, maybe my research here is inadequate, but this is the first time I have seen the full list of the names attached to the report being submitted to Parliament. This is the first time. I may be wrong. All the reports that I have been able to assess, and not all, few, don't have the name specified. It's the first time I've seen it. People have raised the question of security. I'm not too, I haven't thought deeply. But you see, let me be honest, even intelligence agencies, especially foreign intelligence agencies, want to assess those things. They could assess them. After all, it's given to Parliament. Who says they cannot hijack it from Parliament?
Okay. Parliament's record is public.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the point I'm making.
Do you think of their concerns that putting it out that way is not good, particularly to the president?
I know I'm saying that we have taken the level of transparency to another level. We are accounting to the people of Ghana. We are showing respect to the people of Ghana and to the Constitution. And we should expect good results from the people thinking aloud over these things, rather than the other way around. That for the first time, we have included all the names that we think are necessary, that are part of the presidency, that can be seen to be working for the president. And it's sometimes a question of worry, a question that brings about worry, knowing that sometimes in situations where a country degenerates into instability, certain people can be targeted because of their previous roles. But again, it also beholds on everybody that once your name is put out there and that you are a security threat, you should be able to hold yourself out well.
You don't see the situation where people...
Sorry, yeah. I'm sorry. Is it government that published the names? That full list of names?
It's the presidency.
They published it. They did it themselves.
Oh, I don't know.
No, they didn't. They sent it out to Parliament.
And then it got out.
Then the press picks it up, and then puts it on the...
The question I was asking was this one, that don't you see a situation where people, professionals, who are very good, the best that you have in the country, who are willing to assist the president in positions of an advisory, position, will shy away because they don't want to be said to be associated. They want to do their job under a certain anonymity.
But then it means they will not be fit to even work for the president, because the president is incumbent upon him to show to the public what he's doing. And if he thinks that a Ghanaian anywhere can do the job and he brings you in, not as a political figure, but as somebody, a technocrat, and you are shying away, it is a disservice to the people of Ghana.
You just let me read that text message.
Yeah.
Dr. Nimoy Thompson is seen and known as a technocrat.
Yeah, but that's
and yet someone, feels that this is what his color should be known as.
I don't think that Ghanaians should be better informed than that the president has everybody to work with.
Right.
The president can request President Kufuor to advise him.
Right.
If he does so, President Kufuor is not advising because he has become NDC. It's because he's an expert in a certain area.
It's the national interest that
it's
matters.
In the national interest.
In 1 minute.
I think when it comes to Appendix A and Appendix B, in respect of the report, I don't have so much issues because they're already visible. I mean, all of them, the names that I see there are visible. They are known faces, they are known characters. maybe my worry may go.
People are saying some of them paraded themselves as, independent analysts in this country, and
they
suddenly all of them are in the president's,
at the presidency. That they should bring Kwaku back to
something I know for a fact that as we walk out of this studio, some person may say you have brought 2 MPP analysts into the studio.
Right.
Because a lot of people who listen to Kwaku, per his analysis, more often than not, believe he's leaning towards NPP the more. Equally.
Well, there are also those who know and subscribe to the view.
I know he's an
objective.
I know he's an objective analyst. Equally, people would listen to Dr. Nimoy Thompson, and based on the positions he goes, people would have the same thinking. Opinions, my brother, you would share with me.
Okay.
Vary.
Right. On the one that you just said about 2 people, as it were, I need to announce that we had actually agreed, and the last person who was supposed to be on the show is Inusa Fuseni, who is a minister. Unfortunately, he's not here. I do not have any information as to why he's not here, but anything could have happened. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform, and this is brought to you by Star Assurance. And Star Assurance wants to tell you that they appreciate all that you have done for them, leading them to be able to back the award as the CIMG General Insurance Company of the Year 2012, and it has come again to make sure that it is going to provide all your insurance needs. They are also the General Insurance Company in Ghana in the 2012 Club 100 rankings. You put them in all of that, and because of that, they are dedicating their services to ensure that you get the very best of their insurance policies, making sure that they protect your properties and business when the unexpected happens. They have branches located all over Ghana, and they are focused on building partnerships that last a lifetime. So talk to Star Assurance on 0302 240 632, or you visit them at starassurance.com. Star Assurance, that's your CIMG Insurance Company of the Year, and they are your solid partner. The show is also brought to you by Errata Motors. They have brand new and slightly used vehicles, Mercedes-Benz, Toyota, Infiniti, Range Rover, you name it, they have it, and they will provide them to you at the best of prices. You go to Errata Motors at Lagos Avenue, opposite Body Talk, near the GT Bank, East Legon. Call them 0244 445 268. Thank you very much for keeping your dials here. My guest, Abdul Rashid Pelpo, Kwaku Baku Jr., and Seth Kwame Echampong. Today, I have managed to give you 2 different, two different middle names. And my attention is also drawn to the fact that Kujun Pianing subsequently was classified as a presidential. Was giving a ministerial position.
Yes, one stage was minister. Yes, subsequently. Yes. Minister for.
He was giving a ministerial position as minister of
and chief of staff.
And chief of staff.
And chief of staff at the same time. So, do we know if he wasn't put under the list as well? Because if he's put under the list, he'll be put under the list as chief of staff and not as minister of presidential.
Yeah, but he went for vetting, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah. He did. Yes, so he's in a different category. See, those who went for
very
vetting,
interesting.
As far as I'm concerned, don't fall under the presidential
right. Right.
But it's discretionary that the president has put them.
With you.
Thank you very much.
That's a sharp.
Right. We have followed the discussion in the course of this week about some impending reshuffle. In fact, it's been in the news for some time now, and the president, when he met the press, spoke about it and said, look, I'm the coach, and when the time is due and I find that some of my players are not doing well, I'll reshuffle them when I feel like. Well, Joy News's Elton John Broby spoke to ex-President Rawlings, and he also said that was even overdue because the Ghanaian people had reached the point of saturation that they needed something done. And he was expecting that reshuffle to happen so that experienced hands will be brought to the administration. The minister in charge of Information and Media Relations, Mahama Yarega, signed a press statement. And in that statement, he said there was nothing like that. He actually described those reports as elementary political tactics that are being used and seeking to stampede the president into reshuffling or seeking to stay the hand of the president from what he intends to do, if actually he wanted to do anything of the sort. That people had discussed that there was a list that was sitting there with the names of those who were supposed to be reshuffled. He said there's nothing like that. And so all of this should stop. You are a minister. When questions of reshuffle come up, you are uncomfortable about them, aren't you? Because sometimes you may just be taken off completely. You will not get your job.
Yeah, that's true. It's a very discomfortable subject to discuss. And for ministers, we are where we are because of the president, the wishes of the president. And
unfortunately, it is such that you can just decide this very moment that you are gone, and you are gone.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, because you were something before you became a minister. He would say you are no longer his minister, and you go back to that same person. I have had to go through it once upon a time when I was Minister of Sports, and then, within 10 months, I was asked not to be a Minister of Sports anymore. But the
labor laws don't apply, unfortunately, where you are required to be served a notice, at least 1 month's notice, in lieu of payment in that regard.
No. This is a political appointment. The president needs a set of people to practicalize his manifesto as promised to the people of Ghana.
So what's been going through your mind since this reshuffle thing started?
Actually nothing.
You don't think about
nothing.
it?
I don't even think about it because essentially I'm a member of parliament working for the president. He can use me or not use me. That is. But again, it's important that the president be allowed to do his own thinking and do his reshuffle if he thinks it's necessary. And so I don't think this is a matter to be discussed publicly by people if they think that if it is the Constitution has given the president the right to appoint or not to appoint. So it is him and him alone.
Among yourselves as ministers, when you're discussing it, what are the angles that you look at it?
I don't think we scarcely discuss it amongst ourselves. I haven't discussed this thing with any minister at all. And they don't seem to understand that the public is so anxious about something they themselves are not anxious about. The last cabinet meeting, nobody talked about it. We went to lunch. I have not heard anybody talking about reshuffle. It's a subject that is more to the public than to the ministers. But I think that what we should be doing is not to be talking about a blanket reshuffle. Is if the public is particularly anxious about a particular minister, talk about that particular minister. But if you say president should reshuffle, what do you mean? I mean, it's not helping him. If they are as for the reshuffle, it's his priority, it's his prerogative. Yeah, and once it's prerogative, let him take the decision on it. But the people are working closely with a minister. They influence their lives. They hold a certain part of the economy. They drive development at a certain level.
President Rawlings says such a reshuffle appears to be long overdue and that the people, quote unquote, have reached their saturation point.
Well, I don't want to comment on President Rawlings, but essentially, let's talk about what is being reported in the media, which the information minister has described as elementary political tactic, to gain political.
No, he didn't say they are using it to gain any political leverage. He's saying they are using it to either stampede the president into it or seek to stay the hand of the president from doing same, which he may have planned to
what
do?
effect? For a certain political end. When you are influencing the political decision, you want a certain end to be met. That's just the point I want to make. So I don't think that the idea should be to say, President, reshuffle, whether you want to reshuffle or not. If you are thinking that there is a certain minister who is not doing well, or there is a certain part of the economy that is not functioning well, let's narrow down on that, so that anytime the president takes a decision to reshuffle, he takes particular notice of those areas, and then it will influence the decision he will be taking. But I suppose that the president should be allowed to be his own master of appointing or not appointing, rather than somebody...
What was the purpose of the assessment that the president had to do about the ministers? What was the purpose?
At the beginning of this year, when he took over, he said to us that it's important for us to be mindful of what we do. And he also insisted that he took us through the whole spectrum of the vision that he shares with us of Better Ghana.
The question I'm asking is, now I work for myself, I don't get assessed really. When I'm staff of Joy FM, there was a performance assessment.
Yes.
And when it is done, you know where you belong. When it is done, there's a certain grade of performance. If you don't get it, you get sacked. So when the president said, I'm assessing you guys, that is what the public is thinking. After their performance assessment, some will have to go, some will have to be reshuffled. Unless you want Ghanaians to take it that...
And I'm saying that should be left to him. He has done his assessment.
Everybody has done well, excellent.
He has taken people through what we have to share with him. We have also given some milestones and benchmarks to meet because of, he shared that with us, and we agreed that those are the benchmarks. And at the end of the year, he has made his assessment based on what we have given him. He's looking at it, and at the appropriate time, I believe that he will come out to say something to Ghanaians, because he has taken that trajectory as a way by which he can assess and grade his ministers. I believe very, very positively that he will make a pronouncement on it. The only worrying thing is that, should he be pushed by the public, or should he take that decision independently? I think the second should be the case, that he should take that decision independently, because at the end of his term of office, nobody is going to be blamed if something is not done properly.
Right.
They would say it is the president. So that president must be the one who should take decisions when it has to be taken, So as for what Gerald Lawrence says, is something that is normal for any Ghanaian who is anxious to see things happen and making a pronouncement.
All right.
And that shouldn't...
You don't mind if I call you Kwame?
Oh, that's what I love most.
All right. Now tell me. Do you feel, those who want to suggest that to say that the reshuffle should not be expected by Ghanaians and all of this is just people trying to, instigate something? Those who say that such comments are not the best, because if anything at all, they suggest that the performance assessment that the president did, he means to say that everybody got an excellent mark and nobody is supposed to be moved to another place and nobody is supposed to lose their job.
Thank you, Samson. I think your question is kind of... Let me try to help myself here. Now, people who are calling for early reshuffle and those who believe that the president should be allowed to do his own job, I think the president must be allowed to do his own job. But my slight worry from the body of the minister's release creates an impression that there is what people used to hold as a suspicion, that former President Rawlings was still more or less a big brother within the party NDC. If we will all be mindful of history, when President Mahama was sworn into office after the demise of the late Professor Mills, he was quick to come to the defense of President Mahama in a lot of decisions. and a lot of things that happened within that period. So coming now, and we've been watching, some of us have been watching with his intentions and actions as to how he criticizes President Mahama. And so if I read a body like this, it is a safe, big brother, you can't come and worry me, because the language which is characterized with the minister's release, putting all things aside, I don't think this is an NDC matter. This is the state of Ghana matter. Former President Rawlings is a statesman. He represents Ghana. He's represented as, even in this administration, on platforms which the administration allows them to. And so to say he's employing elementary political tactic.
Wasn't with specific reference to him.
No. Not necessarily. He says barely a day after Rawlings' comment.
This is someone reporting the minister's release, reporting on the minister's release.
And Samson, I'm not an English tutor.
Right.
But if I look at in quotation marks, it says an elementary political tactic. Why did the minister release such a statement? If Rawlings had not spoken, I don't think the minister would have been preempted to issue such a statement. As such, if you are sitting back and you're looking on to the horizon, you can't tell me that it is not targeted at Jerry Rawlings. And so, first and foremost, I think the minister, as a public servant and reporting on behalf of us as a people, needs to be decorous with his language. You may not like Rawlings. He's not my admirer, but you are reporting on behalf of the people of Ghana, and let us show some respect. Lately, we are being accused that we don't use the right language, and as a minister, you are a role model, whether you like it or not. People may call you as a young person, but insofar as you occupy an office of state of the Republic, let it reflect in what you do. Going down.
What's the big deal about saying something is elementary political tactic?
Which means there is something which is certain that some of us do not know. Because you may be competing with a person that some of us do not know. That is why I'm saying, when I look at the body, I infer so many things. I wouldn't want to be, people may say I'm trying to play.
Is it derogatory? Is it abusive?
Kind
is it insulting?
Kind of, because if you say he's employing elementary political tactic.
And I say again that the statement was not in direct reference specifically to Jerry Rawlings.
That is
the debate that was gaining weight.
How did the debate emanate? Who commenced it? How did it start? And let us not live as if we are not Ghanaians. We have lived in this country. We've seen the culture of rejoinders and rebuttals, how they turn out. This is not new to us. That is why I'm coming from that angle. But I would want to say that, hey, the cedi is depreciating. The minister admits it. That is what we are all crying about. That is what we want resolved. Some of these things, the president...
And you think that the solution is in a reshuffle?
That is a reserve of the president. It is prerogative. If the people is working with, he believes they are not incompetent, as President Rawlings said in his statement.
You're a member of parliament. Take me as your constituent, and I come to you and I'm asking, what is wrong with our country now? Is it leadership? And do you think that something ought to change at the ministerial level? Will your answer be that it's a preserve of the president to determine who he fires?
Yes. It is the preserve of the president to determine who he fires. Not too long ago, we were quoting certain laws. He has held a sword and sworn to these people that, hey, I am going to ensure that your executive authority, where your major funds is disbursed, I'll do it properly. So if people are not getting it,
you have a role of oversight as parliament.
I will not run away. I won't chicken out.
And more importantly, as opposition,
at least
as opposition, you have a watchdog role.
Oh, you don't go even that far. At least I have the power to appropriate a law that enables him to spend. So I see my responsibility in there. However, after that, if he comes back and he overspends, as we've been doing, but I'm happy now it is not there, then we go back and we see if it's not working.
There's no need for a reshuffle, that's what you're saying.
That is the president's prerogative, Samson. I can't decide for him. I would not attempt to do so.
I see.
Samson, before Kweku comes in, let me just clear it that Ayerga Honorable Ayerega did not refer to the former president, Jerry
Rawlings.
I have
said so.
Because
I have said so.
But it has to
I've
be
said so like
very
3 times as he spoke.
It is not President Rawlings is referring to when he said it's elementary political tactics.
Okay.
Yeah, he was referring to the general reportage coming out of the whole...
I've said so, time without number, really. Okay, now, Kukua, I want to start with you from this point. President Rawlings says that the Ghanaian people have reached their saturation point. And so a reshuffle is long overdue. There are experienced hands within the NDC that President Mahama ought to be tapping into.
Well, he's entitled to his assessment of the Ghanaian situation. And indeed, there are a lot of people out there who might agree with him that times are hard, rough, and tough. And
a lot of people, including yourself.
I think so. But that does not mean I agree with his prescription. But I'm yet to even make...
Your verdict on the economic situation is that it's bad leadership.
Yes, it is. The quality of management of the economy. I think there's a huge deficit there. Nobody's going to convince me otherwise. But let's deal with Mr. Rawlings. He's the founder of the NDC, was a former president. He ruled this country for 19 uninterrupted years. He's got a wealth of experience, and he's making a statement to the effect that the people are at the point of saturation and that there are many incompetent people out there managing the situation, and that's why we are where we are. I said he's entitled to that assessment, and many people out there might share the perspectives he's bringing to bear.
Irrespective of the fact that your verdict subsists that he's a walking contradiction.
Yes, and I was coming to some basics. You know, this country is a very interesting country. This statement by the Minister of Information, maybe not in terms of exactitude, the wording or the language, but we've heard it over and over again. And we heard it so many times when Mr. Rawlings was president of this country. Having been in the media work for a long time, there were many times that we floated the kite of possible reshuffles, speculative pieces out there. And responses came from the Minister of Information then, under President Rawlings, virtually saying what my friend Ayerega is saying, that this politics of pressure is speculative, is unfounded, the president reserves the right as to when and how he does his reshuffle, all these things. This is a recycle. And Mr. Rawlings was in charge, and he insisted, he was virtually telling us that, look, leave the governance to me. I am in charge. I would decide when and how. And those were challenging days too. The economy was also in dire straits and all the things. People were also at a point of saturation. All those things happened. That's what I find interesting about the Ghanaian situation. But you see, in the absence of specifics, who are the ministers that are incompetent? Who are the managers that are incompetent? As the Bank of Ghana, Ministry of Finance, even if you won't mention the names, you mention the central points, the locations, and drive the discussion on an informed basis. But here we are, we had a founder of the NDC, a former president. He puts out there a general thing, a blank. It's a blank. And we have been invited to come and interrogate this blank. And I'm finding it very difficult because you see, the problem I've had with Rawlings is the fact that what he's doing is what he used to call populism. He's put out there, he knows, he's read the sentiments of the people at this particular time, and he's put out something that he knows a lot of people would bite on. But you see, he's in a position where the standard, I judge him on a stricter standard. I don't use the ordinary standard to assess what Mr. Rawlings says. No, because of his peculiar situation, having been the founder and having ruled Ghana for 19 years. If he's decided to use the public domain, the public platform, to articulate, to make a call for a reshuffle on the premise that the situation is so bad and that the managers and leaders we have today are doing so poorly, I expect him to provide some material particulars which will drive this discussion. Otherwise, it's a blank space. We might as well then leave Rawlings out of the equation and discuss the subject matter.
You have been in the media long enough. Sometimes we've heard that these are only sometimes. Yeah. They are deliberate to tease out public reaction. Yes. So that the president knows what exactly to do.
Yeah, but I said
who to touch, who not to touch.
Under Rawlings, such things were done. I took part in some of them. We floated the kites. We put it out there. We do it this way. And then, look, and that Ayariga thing, there's some truth in it. You know, there were times that when you put out the story about reshuffle, we even sometimes would put names and the ministries. It had a back, that is a negative effect rather. The president would decide not to do the reshuffle at that time.
Right.
Because he didn't want to be seen as somebody who was being dictated to by the media pressure or political opponents. Yeah, it happened. So sometimes it served, paradoxically, it was a reverse result. It does happen in our politics. Okay? There were times too that genuinely, if you backed it with scandals, you see, with stories, true stories, factual stories about a minister of state who is engaged in some scandalous activity, it was difficult for the president to avoid doing anything about it. So this matter, when it's being done, we've all grown. And you bring substantive issues to bear. That's why I'm saying that Mr. Rawlings is in a position to know what he's talking about. He should be clear in his mind that here we are talking of the Ministry of Finance. Are they doing well or they are not doing well? Are they messing up? We are looking at government communications. Ministry of Information, are they doing well or they are not doing well? Okay? The Ministry of Interior, are they doing well or they are not doing well? Bring the issues. Tell us where the pinpoints are, and then we can interrogate them. Otherwise, we might as well, as I said, leave him out of the equation and interrogate the matter.
Is a reshuffle your expectation anytime soon?
I won't be surprised. I won't be surprised at all. It's good after the, what is it? That is, they did some
performance
assessment.
Evaluation, whatever.
I think the president must have some material now to enable him proceed further. And there's a need for some team changes. See, when you are faced with challenges of this sort, in politics, in real politics, sometimes those changes give the impression that you are doing something when maybe you are doing nothing at all.
I see. Very interesting. Abdul Malik Kweku Bako Jr. This is Newsfile. Your messages are still welcome, 1422. That's the text line. And also, you can post them on our Facebook wall or send them to me directly at newsfile@myjoyonline.com. We will take a quick break here and return to continue with the discussion. Go into the NPP and find out what exactly is happening in there. The Paul Afoko matter, also the other candidates who were looking to contest for the party's national executive positions, various, who have been disqualified. What are the implications for the party going forward, and looking at the bigger picture in 2016? We'll also look at the issue about the GBA, or the Ghana Bar Association, no longer interested in disciplinary sanctions against Chachi Chikata and Gabi Asario Chiridako. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you very much for keeping your dials here. This is Joy 99.7 FM on radio and over a dozen affiliate stations across the country. And you're watching us on Multi TV's Joy News channel. Thanks very much indeed. Now, we talk about the NPP, and you are aware that the vetting for the national executive positions were concluded yesterday, is it? And then as a number of them have been disqualified. Let me read to you this one. Fred Amankwasa for Hajia Fatima and Philomena Sewa-Kato, who were all vying for the vice chairmanship positions. Kamal Abdullahi, who was contesting for Nasara coordinator, and a fifth person who has not been named, have until Monday, February 17, 2014, to appeal against the decision of the vetting committee. The party, on Thursday, really, concluded the vetting of the 44 aspirants, including 6 incumbents, executives, seeking re-election for a total of 8 positions. Now, we are told that by the Director of Elections of the NPP, that's Martin J. Mensah Kosa, we're told by him that there is a petition against the candidature of Paul Afoko, who is running for the chairmanship position of the party. Now, because of some of these developments, they have suspended balloting for positions on the ballot for the elections under the circumstances. We're also told that the petitioners who have petitioned against Paul Afoko, they will not be disclosed, but we have some information about why he may have been, they may have petitioned against him. I read his text messages, and then I come to Abdul Malik Tobacco to start with, because we have looked at these matters in the last week. Now, Abraham Bokite writes, Mr. Rawlings has hit the nail right on the head. The president needs to act, and act quickly, to save Ghana through reshuffling. Like he, Rawlings, said, there are a lot of big thinkers in the NDC and in Ghana who can do a far better job to save our dear country from collapsing. Acquah says, examples can be set for others to follow. The size of Parliament itself is a bad example. Too big for a population of 24 million. The EC was supported by Parliament and the Judiciary, and to increase the bedding Parliament places on the populace. The law that empowers the EC to keep increasing number of constituencies must be looked at dispassionately. That discussion too continues to just come up every time it is election time, and nothing really gets done about it. Ben says we should adopt a national policy where all stakeholders will contribute ideas for successive government to implement in order to save the merry-go-round style of resolving national issues. Ghana, Brett. Well, then there will not be need to vote and elect a particular government into office. Now, Abdul Malik, I'll start with you on the NPP and its potential problems that have a certain potential, situation for the party.
Well, I'm not too sure this is the first time the NPP is having such problems relative to vetting. I recall, maybe that time was not exactly a national executive, but right. If you recall the Fadate incident, you also recall even the former vice president, the late Aliyu Mahama, may he rest in peace, in terms of some appearing at a location and apparently the vetting had been deferred and things, and all the problems that came up. And I recall the party issuing a statement to clarify all the situation. So they sailed through then. I anticipate they will sail through now as well. Except that there's certain unclarity relative to the official announcement. I am not too sure. You said it was announced that 5 people have been suspended.
That is so.
I'm not too
sure. The man
sure.
in charge of elections spoke about that.
It wasn't too clear to me whether that's a definitive decision. But assuming without admitting it is, he also left that point about appeal.
Right.
So it means that there's nothing definitive as we speak, in the sense that even assuming without admitting the suspensions have been, people have been disqualified or have proved unsuccessful, anything could happen.
Right.
Some of them could still get out of that bracket.
They have up to mandate to do that.
Yes, and I've been hearing things. A bird whispered into my ears that one of the names you mentioned, is it the Fred?
Yes, Fred Amankwa Safo.
May have been taken out of that bracket. But all these things are speculative as we speak now. But I am surprised too, and I have to be very clear about this, that those who went for vetting and had difficulties, some challenges, themselves came on air and were debating some of the issues. I don't think it was in the interest of their party.
They're the ones who are actually making the disclosures.
Yes, I don't think it was in their interest or the party's interest. See, we the media, we love these things. You provide us with ammunition, we'll run with it. Okay? So here we are, you've been told something, you have an escape route in terms of appeal. Nothing is definitive or conclusive, and you are on air talking, well, perhaps doing pressure politics, so as to create an environment to disable the committee from proceeding to its logical conclusion, perhaps what you consider as distasteful. That's bad politics. I think it was not the best of politics. Look, and Paul Afoko's name has come up as somebody, I don't have the particulars. If it's the Ghanaian angle that he's gone to jail before, I think that can be thrown out of the window into the dustbin, because we all know what the circumstances were. Now others are talking of something that might have happened in London,
right,
and which I don't think is fair for me to make a disclosure here. I don't even want to believe
the first one that was mentioned was that he had been convicted before, and that one his men have come very strongly defending that is erroneous, because he was a political prisoner, so to speak, and yes, so there was no conviction, there was no trial and conviction. So
yes,
that one
I believe that.
Like you say, it should be relegated to the dustbin.
Yes.
But the United Kingdom one, they are referring to his arrest over alleged some drug offense.
Yes, I don't want to, I'm inclined not to believe that too. I'll be honest with you, I'm inclined not to believe that. But those who are making the allegation obviously must bring further and better particulars. The questions have been raised as to whether the committee should not have given the person coming for the vetting prior notice about those things. I'm not sure of the party's convention and practices. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. So they will have to answer that question.
The party's convention and practices will not override what constitutionally is required in respect of fair hearing.
Yes,
natural justice.
But you know, there's still, yes, I agree with you, but you know that even if they were not giving prior notice of what the issues were, that was no basis. You still appeared before the vetting. You were still giving those things, questions. You would address them all the same. So I don't think it's a fatal injury, especially when you are on the side of truth. When those allegations are false, you wouldn't bother even if it was 24-hour notice and you appeared, or you didn't get notice but appeared. That's my own view.
Right.
It doesn't constitute a fatal injury. So I was a bit disappointed with Mr. Foko, who I respect and in fact admire, and I think is a quality aspirant. When I heard him on air speculating on those issues about whether he had been suspended, disqualified or not disqualified, it wasn't good enough. He's chasing the highest executive position in the party. So I thought he would have exercised a certain level of restraint and not gotten himself into a radio discussion over that matter. The Fred man also did something similar. I heard him, I think, on Asampa or your station. I think all those things were unnecessary. Wait, go for the appeal, deal with the issues. If it doesn't succeed and you think you have to take other legitimate legal actions, you could.
Right.
You understand? So for me, I think this is a storm in a teacup. It will soon settle, and the party will move on.
Kwame, Kweku says this might be a storm in a teacup. He said it's a storm, not might be, in a teacup. But you are in the NPP. When, because of these developments, and specifically with respect to Paul Afoko, when you have a group that comes up to say, don't touch him, he is our anointed from the north. If you do so, you are deepening the speculation, the tag, political tag, that the NPP is an account party and that is not good for you in 2016. This should not be taken lightly.
Thank you, Samson. Certainly this should not be taken lightly. I see it as work in progress. Work in progress in that I, as a legislator and as a Ghanaian and as a member of the New Patriotic Party, where we believe in the rule of law, like Kweku said, this is not the first time that NPP is testing the laws to help itself move forward. I hear the vetting committee received a petition that is on one side. And like we're saying, here is the report from the media that is saying that 5 people are affected out of the vetting committee. I have not seen any official.
I am quoting you a Joy News report, which is attributed to Martin J. Mensah Kosa, who is
a member,
the director for elections.
And a member of the vetting committee, because as I saw the reportage, I was trying to advert myself to the reportage, and I have noticed that he is a member of the vetting committee. And I have listened to Mr. Foucault as well. I've listened to other contestants in the system as well. For me, where I sit, and as I call myself a young leader in the party, I think NPP is a bigger party than all of us. And I'll call for whoever has been offered the responsibility to work in the stead of the party to do their work diligently and help us unite going forward. My call for unity is that has been the mantra from the leadership of our party, from the statesmen we know of, former President Kufuor, our current flag bearer Nana Akufo-Addo. Every person who speaks on behalf of NPP is calling for unity. I would want members of the vetting committee and contestants to allow what I call conscience to rule in their affairs.
Good conscience.
Good conscience. Thank you for the qualification. Good conscience, because whether we accept it or not, I believe our party is the largest party in Ghana. To cap it that it is an account party. Yes, some could say it's an account party. I don't run away from it, because our performance as a political party within the account-dominated areas is not a secret. However, we have equal strength in other regions of Ghana, and it will feed into people's...
I don't want to get into all that
Thank you
politics
very much.
and the figures.
I'm not even going there.
Yes,
I'm not even going there.
But you know that by the last elections, and that's what we ought to go by, or even by the last two elections, you cannot say that you have equal strength in all the regions of the country.
If that is the true reflection, because we still disagree with the status quo.
I see.
So that is not so much of a worry for me. I mean, yes, if you are looking for the fact as is a fact as presented today, yes, that is it. But we still hold our opinions. Let me move on into what I really want to say. I have listened to several leaders of our party on this very subject. And I, as a member of the party, is coming on this score that let us allow your qualification, good conscience to prevail in this very exercise. We have successfully conducted over 26,000 polling station elections. We have done our coordinators for electoral areas. We have done constituencies. We have done our 10 regional elections. We've been very successful. The campaigns have gone on. And I'm not worried, because when the timetable for this very exercise was put out and other additions for venues for the exercise to be effected, there were similar situations that came up. However, the party rose to the occasion, and then we were able to come out successfully. The way forward, everybody accepted it. I believe that what is coming, I want to call on the aspirants to hold their fire and their followers. That I don't believe that the characters would have to be disqualified. There have been, I have attended vetting committees in NPP. When you lack certain things that vetting demands, they give you space and you're able to make up within. They are not items that require years. They are things that within a short while you can make amends and grow with. But like I said, good conscience to all of us.
So you think that the vetting committee got it wrong, disqualifying these candidates?
I am not sure the vetting committee has disqualified them. Martin J. Kosa is not the chairperson to the vetting committee.
He says they have been disqualified.
No, he is the director.
They have up to Monday to appeal if they so wish.
And the fifth person, those four people, they so wish, they've been blunt.
Okay, so let me say, you're saying the vetting committee will be wrong if it disqualifies them.
The vetting committee necessarily it will not be wrong, because they have their laid down rules that we all must apply ourselves to if you want to be within the contest. If you go out of it, I know a senior person who then, when the late Chairman Alajete was in the saddle, used to spend a lot of quality time with, the then 2007 presidential primaries. He was the chairperson for that exercise. And everybody thought the person was known. Yet, the then chairman said that notwithstanding, the person did not offer us ABC, which is a prerequisite for nomination.
So he should bring them.
He should bring them. And that is our tradition. So I'm not surprised that it's happening.
So you're back to your point then, that the vetting committee will not disqualify them. It will rather require that you meet certain requirements and give you space to do so.
I thank you for the qualification. That is why I said good conscience. If you are going in for the process, ensure that you have what is right to be in there. If you are also managing the process, ensure that you do not do any bias. That will call for other people speaking their mind elsewhere.
Just briefly, I was talking about the Polafoko aspect.
Thank you.
And the comments that are already coming out about that. And Polafoko too has had a history in the period when when the candidates were going, when you were going for your flag bearership.
The Legon Congress in 2007.
The Legon Congress, that's what I'm referring to.
In 2007.
And he's perceived to belong to a camp that's, presently there appear to be attempts to take that camp off.
Something. I don't see any of those things happening in our political party today because I'm on the ground. And the kind of elections that we are holding and we are headed with, if you go to do camps, you'll be surprised that your camp necessarily may not even help you because we have been in opposition and we are, whether we like it or not, we're going to be in opposition for 2 terms. My colleagues are hungry for power. I'm sitting here speaking eloquently and smoothly. I am there hungry for power.
For good purposes.
I'm telling you, because we believe that we, whether we like it or not, the destiny of this country, we must contribute our quota to get it running properly.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Pepo, I don't know how you would also see this, that is it necessary at all to bring in the Northern card and to say this is the man from the North? Admitting him into the process will give a semblance of a national party for the NPP rather than the tag Akan party. Is it necessary to bring in these things in internal elections?
Well, first of all, let's admit that this is a very big challenge to the NPP, and crossing this bridge successfully is going to define their way forward.
All of us are not going to agree because Kuku thinks that this is only,
it was his opinion. I'm telling you my opinion. Crossing this bridge is going to determine a lot how they are going to put themselves together to meet our candidate in 2016. The reason being that it is the same people who are going to elect the presidency, I mean the leader of the party, who is going to be the flag bearer. And so if there's a wedge between them, there's going to be a problem electing who is going to represent them at the elections. And that's why it shouldn't be taken lightly. Now, I know for Afoko, though I'm a member of the NDC, I saw how he worked in the previous times, how with President Kufuor, he went around everywhere, disturbed us because we were being fought to come into power. So we know how he got into connecting with people of the Northern.
He's got influence.
Yeah, he got connected to them. He has some influence. He spent money on behalf of the MPP. And I don't know whether they gave him the money or his own money. He did well. So he got connected with the people. It's only
in this country that we don't know the source of the monies that the politicians spend.
Sometimes. Yeah, so he got connected with them. And so if they see him as a symbol of authority coming from within them, and all of a sudden they are saying, everything you did, you were not doing it right because you yourself, you are not right, then people will begin questioning it. And I'm wondering why in the first instance, nobody complained when he was doing all that. And now that he wants to be in office, these complaints have come to the point that we are hearing he's suspended. From what? And for what reason?
Because there's a petition against his candidature.
Yeah, so it has to be handled properly. That's just the advice I want to give to. But again, it's important for us to go beyond ethnic things when we are dealing with national issues in this country. Because one of the things Ghana has done well is to patch our differences, is to remain as a united people, with a common destiny. And so it's important that for most of the instances when we are meeting such difficult situations, we should see ourselves as one people fighting for an objective, which is going to be Ghanaian. And that's why it's important for the NPP to be careful about dealing with this issue. So if anybody says that it's not going to be, it's not so important, it's not a big issue, politically, from the outside, for more non-political viewers, it might just be small. But small things like this will eventually blossom into being bigger things and eventually will create a great problem for the party. So hopefully they will resolve themselves. We are at the wings and we are waiting. Whatever they come out with, we are sure that we want to retain power and we'll work hard to fight it and fight them.
Could you hold on a minute for me? Samuel Brian Boabing, she says that, I find it quite disgusting when I hear people saying Mr. Paul Afoko should be allowed to go through vetting without, even if he doesn't qualify. Their reason, because of NDC propaganda. So now NDC propaganda should serve as criteria for voting people into party office. Why then don't we go for a northern chief and make him chairman? Don Pino from Malam says, any unfair treatment meted out to any aspirant, especially Mr. Paul Afoko, will spell doom for our chances in 2016. Level playing field must be offered to all the aspirants and they must be made to lose or win on their own merit. Long live the NPP. I'll take a last one from Aveka. He says that, yes, the NPP will sail through, but the fact will be that it will leave a mark that could have some negative effect on the NPP in the 2016 election agenda. This one should be with respect to the earlier messages. Says that Ghana today has two key problems. Number one, poor leadership, which manifests itself in incompetent, inexperienced, amateur, and shallow appointees. Rawlings and Kufuor had a much better team, but the best cabinet ever assembled in Ghana's history was Dr. Liman's. Ask Kweku to list them for you. The second problem is corruption. The extent of corruption in Ghana today is mind-boggling. Kufuor was hauled to Shraj for spending 4,800 Ghana cedis on a security gate at his house. Today, where is Shraj? Where is the outrage in the midst of Jida, in the midst of Jida, Suba, Isofoton, Wayome, and so on? And considering the bipartisan corruption in Parliament, I'm not even certain that our salvation lies with the NPP. My soul... Okay, let's end it here. He's not too happy about the future of Ghana when he thinks about his children. You didn't properly identify yourself. This one says that fair vetting is what everyone is asking for. The burden of proof is on the petitioners and not Afoko. Ayuko too must know. Okay, Ayuko too is not on this show and he has not made any allegations on this show. Abdul Malik.
Yeah, see, it's an issue, a big issue. If you disqualify somebody on false premises, then it becomes an issue. We're not there yet. So sometimes I wonder why people are jumping the gun.
Right.
The chairman of the committee is this.
CK Tadem and then Bishop Asante.
Yeah, I get irritated by the ethnocentric elements that are being brought into the thing, and I think it's not in the interest of those who are pushing that line. But the chairman himself happens to come from up north, isn't he? And those that the names that have come out as people who have been disqualified, which I'm not too still sure, are they all Northerners?
Not exactly.
Yeah, the whole thing doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Let's keep to the party has regulations, has rules. There are also laws for both the party and the nation that people must meet. Otherwise, look, you can decide to ignore some credible information and get somebody elected only for it to be challenged in court. Okay?
Right.
Yes, so no responsible party will do that.
Okay.
But as I'm saying, this is a process. I am not inclined to believe any of the allegations against Paul.
Okay.
I don't believe it. But I'm not the one to determine that here.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. You're still here on Newsfile on Joy 99.7 FM on radio, on Love 99.5 in Kumasi, and over a dozen affiliate stations across the country. You're watching us on your Joy News channel on Multi TV. This show will be repeated at 9:30 p.m. and it's also subsequently will be live will be broadcast on ABN TV. So if you want to watch in London or elsewhere in Europe, it's always available on the Sky platform on ABN television. Now, we have heard the lawyers for Gabi Asare Otridak, who was the executive director of the Acquah Institute. He's also a lawyer who have dismissed media reports. There have been reports that he and Chachu Chikata, a very senior lawyer in this country, will appear before the General Legal Council, that is the body that sees to legal education and everything legal in this country, for comments that the two of them made during the election petition last year. The Ghana Bar Association actually referred the matter to the disciplinary committee of the General Legal Council and asked the council to summon Ochiridako and Chachu Chikata to appear before them over those matters, hopefully so that disciplinary sanctions could be meted out to them. You may be aware Chachu Chikata publicly criticized a particular judge and accused that judge of doing the NPP's bidding, doing politics in the court rather than sticking to the law. Gabi Asare Otridak also made comments to the effect that the Constitution was corrupted by the Supreme Court and that they made a judgment that was farcical. These were the reasons that they were cited by the GBA, and now we are being told that the GBA apparently is withdrawn the petition, and so this matter is moot, is dead. I want to find out from you first, Koku, when it came up first, there were those who said this is good, let it go, and let's see what the GBA, the Ghana General Legal Council will say. So when you hear that the petition has been withdrawn, how does that sound to you?
Well. A certain picture of inconsistency. Because, and let me be honest with you, earlier when those statements were made, I was of the opinion that they ought to be interrogated by the appropriate bodies.
Right.
But recently, when the report came out, and I think my paper also published it, my instinct was that, bad timing. Why all this time delay and all the rest? So I myself had a double reaction, very conflicting. But I said, fine, if they have decided for the issue of future deterrence.
You're talking about delay in respect of the time the GBA sent the petition.
Yes, and
it had been long after the judgment.
After the judgment,
right.
And after all the public anxiety and debate over the issues.
Right.
The timing. So I said, come on, let's all forget it. Then upon deeper reflection, I said, well, let them deal with it based on whatever code that guides lawyers, so that perhaps they will create the basis for deterrence against such things in the future. Only for it to also collapse, for us to be told that it's even been withdrawn. And that's why I said a picture of inconsistency. But you see, what is interesting in all this matter, and I'm not going to go into the merits of what each person said, because I think we've dealt with that issue.
That's why I just summarized it.
Yes. It's, you are the lawyer. You definitely have some professional...
yes, we have a professional code of etiquette.
That's right. You have it. So I was wondering whether the complaint was in relation to anything that had been violated in that professional code. And if so, this whole attempt, to, the withdrawal, is it going to mean that next time, if some lawyer does anything, can they deal with it? You see, the issues of sustainability and consistency, for me, are now primary.
Right.
You know, we've had past things that were not dealt with. The Tony Litters, the present speaker of, first speaker of parliament, what's his name? I've forgotten.
Is it first speaker? Batu?
Yeah, yes. Have you forgotten what he did to a judge?
Right.
You understand? And yes, there's so many. And then whatever the Supreme Court judgment.
Right.
There was a reference to some.
A lawyer was referred.
And the Bar Association didn't deal with any of these things, in my opinion, in a very candid, vigorous manner. Then Chachu and Gabi comes in and is dropped. If we are not careful.
You remember Dr. Raymond Atuguba and his colleagues too?
That's
Abraham
right.
Amaliba.
Yes. So I'm beginning to think that if we are not careful, we cannot sustain, we cannot be consistent relative to your professional code. And that can immobilize both the Bar Association and the General Legal Council. We have to be very careful how we go. So if you decide to bite the bullet, bite it, and proceed. That is the picture that I'm getting now. And I have to be honest, I myself am not too sure what to do. But I think that inconsistency and lack of sustainability may come to haunt the Bar Association and the General Legal Council eventually.
Right. We have not been giving any explanation why it was withdrawn. All we are told is that a senior member of the Bar, who is actually a member of the Bar Association, Justin Amenuvo, has announced that they intended to withdraw it, and they have indeed gone ahead to withdraw the petition. We are not told, giving any reasons.
Yeah, but it's important that we preserve the sanctity of the judiciary and also the Constitution of Ghana. The comments throughout, not just the two of them, but previous comments had to do with questioning the partiality or the impartiality of the judiciary. But this is a body we need to have confidence and trust in, a body that determines the law, the interpretation of the law, and gives the weak some space, to live in comfort and to believe that in this country you can be protected by the law. So if that body, the partiality of that, the impartiality of that body is questioned, it's important for us to understand what has happened. At least if it is established that it is true, they need to be cautioned and they need to be able to.
Of course, sometimes some of them are actually sacked.
Yeah. It's important. And
it is true. It is true that it is not the case.
Yeah.
Like you suggest, it's not the case that all the judges are clean.
Yeah.
Sure.
So there's evidence of some of them who have actually been engaged in very nasty things.
Yeah.
Misconduct.
Yeah. So it's important, that when these things come up, we should follow it to the letter, especially when it has to do with also the questioning the Constitution. A judge violating the Constitution, meaning he's placing his individual private interest above the Constitution.
That particular comment of Gabi was in respect of the constitutional injunction in respect of...
no, it was the verdict. The overall
verdict. It was the overall verdict, but to a certain extent, it appeared to have been narrowed to this question on the constitutional injunction about you needing to... The signatures of the presiding officers or so.
Yeah.
Right. And he says that they had corrupted the Constitution in that regard and giving a farcical judgment.
49 something.
Yes, Article 40.
That was an opinion, and the judges alone are the ones who interpret the law.
Right.
And he may have also violated gone beyond his expectation that a private citizen should be able to comment.
He said he was ready to go to jail for it.
Yeah, he should go to jail if it is found that he's wrong, because that's what he's looking
for.
The
petition has been withdrawn.
Yeah, unfortunately. So I'm saying that it's important for the public to be careful about these institutions. They define the Constitution, they define our democracy, and they give us the direction and comfort to exercise our freedom and liberty whilst living in this country. If these institutions are broken down, the judiciary is broken down,
you get into a jungle justice.
Then there is a problem. That's how come people, when they arrest armed robbers, they just kill them. Because they know that in most instances, when they are sent to the police, eventually they are either given some bail or something when they shouldn't have been given a bail. And then, so when people see them, they kill them. And that shouldn't be the case at all. We should never be reduced to behaving beastly among our fellow citizens. And I have an instance where somebody caught a thief. Seriously, he had been stealing from his farm and his other properties until he managed to catch him. He took him to court, and then the courts, they were asking him too many questions, and the thief hired a lawyer, and the lawyer was very, very intrusive about what was happening and questioning the whole matter. Then he said, but this one. And that was Achampon time. He said, Achampon said if you catch a thief, we should kill him. I have been very kind to bring this thief to you.
Right.
And you are getting this moment to asking me questions. But that's also to question whether the people understand the system or not. And also whether we have confidence in the judiciary. We need to have confidence in the judiciary, and the judiciary has to exude that same level of confidence so that we can trust it, rely on it, and move with it, and be sure that when we have our trust on it, it will serve us.
Yeah, so the judiciary does not need cat hunters.
Doesn't need cat hunters. That's a serious one. Now, Kwame, are you also equally disappointed that we won't get to the bottom of this matter as far as an investigation that would have been done by the General Legal Counsel is concerned?
Yes, I am, Samson, because the professional body Bar Association is one of the most reputed, if I cannot say the only, when all rules break down. It is the only institution you cannot throw away. No matter, even when we are under a military junta, you still have to go and find personnel from that area to help you govern. We have been practicing our current dispensation, the democracy, and one of the integral things is to have members of that fraternity play a major role in the march forward. I mean, something you agree with me that first and foremost, stewardship is something we have to look out for. Not necessarily in public, but in private stewardship as well, because people look up to the rules. In recent past, if you've listened to commentary relating to the judiciary, I don't think members of the bar should allow the entire system to be viewed in that manner. And I'm appealing that if you read the statement, it says an intention, and then it said no reasons have been offered for those intentions. It may be well intended, but when we know of why these actions are being taken, then it lessens the bashing, it lessens the perceptions, whether people believe one is our kind, so we wouldn't want to go and put them out there and strip them on the carpet, or we think that one deserves to be, kept in a particular arena and not to be exposed. I think we all have to help in the nation building. My reason is that whether we like it or not, if you criticize a medical officer, if you criticize a teacher, we are helping to build a nation, because criticism helps to shape us. And so we were expecting that this Bar Association would have helped us. I mean, as a young man growing up under the administration of former President Jerry Rawlings, when he was a chairman for PNDC, I think one of the most vociferous bodies in this country was the Bar Association.
Right.
And it has, gained that reputation long over the years. You will realize that it predates our independence. It is the lawyers who stood up and fought for our independence, the frontliners. It is not just an ordinary profession. So when people are put in office of responsibility, let us leave a proper stewardship, because you may be accountable for that tomorrow. Today, if it is the leadership of the Bar Association who is doing that, remember, their tenure may be off, another leadership may come. I'm just trying to delve into the subject in a manner. I'm not just laying blame on them, but I think we need to be responsible in our stewardship. That's all I want to say.
You'd also recognize that that petition itself could also have been dismissed by the General Legal Council as lacking merit. And would have come to the same situation, wouldn't we?
Something, you are the lawyers, and you know how you prepare your briefs for it to stand the test of time. And so if the bar itself was putting a subject before General Legal Council, I believe members of the bench are equally members of the bar because you apply in the same profession. And so I don't think you would have just done yourself a bad brief. If discipline is discipline, like you said, you have a code of etiquette. And so you wouldn't want your code of etiquette just to be flown around anyway, and people will go back tomorrow and say, hey, look at them. It is them, they're trying to do something else. I think we all need to leave what I call stewardship, certain standards, so that every person, we are quick to cite examples elsewhere. In certain nations, if this had happened in a particular office, the head would have resigned, the head would have done that. Those mantras we profess, let us try and see if we can leave some of them in our communities. I think it will help all of us. To help all of us. Me, as a member of Ghana's parliament, I see myself as a guinea pig, because the moment any subject emanates in the political arena, we are the guinea pigs. We are the first people who chance on. That is not my concern. My concern is that let us all live up for good stewardship for Mother Ghana.
Jerry in New York says that the GBA is only helping to boost up the popularity of Gabi or Chere Dako. I don't really get that.
Really? Amazing.
I don't really get that. There were those who said that you didn't have to, as it were, cite the two of them together because they were different and separate matters. Mr. Chachichikata had come public to say and named a particular judge and accused that judge of doing politics in the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And then Gabi had spoken specific to the judgment and gave his opinion of the judgment.
Yeah.
So there was no point bringing in Gabi. That's what some have suggested.
Yeah, but that was the Bar Association decided to put the two of them together. Mm-hmm. Yes, and it was up to the General Legal Council to determine the merits of the complaint.
Right.
For me, that was it. You understand? So I don't think it's a big deal.
Well, so someone suggests that was only for the purposes of seeking to do some sort of, political balance, because Gabi Asare is NPP and Chachichikata is known to be with the NDC.
Or getting the equation to cancel out at the end of the day.
What we now know as a political equalization.
But the bottom line is that there would have been a determination of the issue by the General Legal Council on its merits. That is the bottom line.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you all for tuning in and also being part of this discussion. Mr. Rashid Pelpo, he is a Minister of State in the presidency in charge of private sector development. And I was just making a reference to that again because I'm getting quite a number of messages that are still seeking to say that these questions of reshuffle or no reshuffle, it all boils down to evidence of incompetence in the current administration, and that ought to be dealt with. And that some of you, the positions that you are in are not necessary because there are other arms of government that can equally deal with that.
That's a long-standing debate.
My response is that this is not the first time we have ministers of state. All throughout, in recent times, since Rawlings, they have the ministers of state.
Indeed, from Nkrumah's days.
From Nkrumah's days. Yeah. It's a feature in Ghanaian politics. And I'm saying also that you can't have a government, a president operating at the presidency without ministers assisting him at the presidency. You need them.
When you have advisors on almost every sector.
They can't represent him.
Almost every sector. And it's the same president who picks the ministers and their deputies.
These are ministers. You are talking about
right.
That's a different matter.
I think honestly that this is a crucial subject that devoid of politics.
But we've discussed it for years.
We've discussed it for years. But we need to look at it because, like you alluded to, when you go to look at the numbers that come, they are still the same public service and civil service who are many. I mean, as a country, when we look at ourselves, is it necessary to continue to hang on in there? Some may run away.
We have retrenched over the years.
Oh, the
retrenched
days.
Over 300,000 Ghanaian workers.
Senior.
Here we are.
Then it wasn't under democracy.
Size.
Then it wasn't under democracy. But let's.
Now, I'm not looking at the nature. I'm saying the policy. Do we want to rationalize the labor force and cut down? Let's be bold and discuss that.
How do you sincerely
good policy
see
to
a president,
not necessarily
a president doing
people,
without,
but making use of them
such
as you go.
people attached to him?
He will find it very difficult.
But the ministers are at his beck and call.
But they are given sectorial responsibilities. And their mind, they are traveling, they are going to represent the country elsewhere. They have meetings, they have scheduled their own times. Then the president gets up in the morning and says, well, I want this minister to go here. You can't go and call a minister of foreign affairs or trade or who is on a mission somewhere.
Right.
And he would need a certain person
truly,
of
a certain
the
designations,
a minister to do it.
Okay.
And that's why how
the
come
designations
he would
must
need them by him.
definitions, the rules, and functions properly.
You need
I
all
think
of
they are
that.
not clear. Yes.
Right now, the number of
and then get a
people
proper
who come to me.
organization
Thank you.
so that everybody can refer
Who the
to.
president refers to me rather than he seeing them are so many.
Okay.
They would have been lined up in his office waiting to see him.
Thank you very much. My guest has been Abdul Malik Kubako Jr., Editor-in-Chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. He's a regular panelist on this show. Abdul Rashid Pelpo, he is MP for Wa Central and is Minister of State in charge of private sector development. Seth Kwame Echampong is MP for Mpraeso, and he is also a member of the Defense and Interior as well as the Gender and Children's Committees of Parliament. I'm Samson Ladi, and this show was produced by Sedem Ofori with assistance from Samuel Odame, Emmanuel Ante, Abubakar Yaya, and the rest of the production team. Thank you very much. The news comes up next. Have a good afternoon.